I want to talk about something that sounds simple on the surface, but is actually deeply challenging to live by, especially if you're someone who cares, supports others, and tends to take responsibility easily. This video is all about what it really means to let people fall, not in a harsh or indifferent way, but in a way that honors their strength, their path, and their capacity to grow through their own experiences rather than be carried through them by someone else. This is a conversation about boundaries, personal responsibility, and the quiet difference between helping someone and interfering with their evolution. Let's get started. I want to acknowledge something here, because this is often where people begin to feel resistance. This is also the topic that tends to make me the least popular, because on the surface, it can sound unkind. It can sound like I'm suggesting that we shouldn't help people or that we should turn away when someone is clearly struggling. And that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm pointing to is the difference between choosing what feels emotionally comfortable and choosing what is genuinely empowering. Stepping in, fixing things, and absorbing the fallout for others often feels like love, but very often it quietly communicates that we don't trust the other person to handle their own life. The harder choice is to trust their capacity, even when watching them struggle triggers our own discomfort, guilt, or desire to be needed. Letting someone face their own battles is not abandonment. It's an expression of respect for their intelligence, their resilience, and their ability to learn through lived experience rather than borrowed solutions. Most people who overhelp are not controlling or self-righteous. They're conditioned. Many of us learned early on that being valuable meant being useful, that love meant sacrifice, and that keeping the peace required us to step in before things fell apart. Over time, this turns into a pattern where we feel responsible for other people's emotions, outcomes, and choices. There's also an ego component that's worth being honest about. Helping can create a sense of purpose, relevance, and moral high ground, especially when someone else appears lost or incapable. But when helping becomes habitual rescuing, then it stops being about support and it starts becoming about control, even if it's unconscious. Think of it like covering a wound without ever addressing what caused it. Every time you step in, smooth things over, or prevent someone from experiencing the full consequence of their choices, you're placing a temporary cover over something that still needs attention. The wound might look better on the surface, but underneath, nothing has changed. Over time, the person doesn't develop the internal strength, clarity, or responsibility required to heal, because the pressure that would have forced growth has been removed. What began as kindness quietly becomes a delay, not just of discomfort, but of evolution. This is why people can remain stuck in patterns for years while constantly being supported, advised, or rescued. The lesson never fully lands because it never fully belongs to them. Letting someone fall is not about withdrawing care. It's about withdrawing interference. It's recognizing that struggle is often the very mechanism through which strength is built. Just as children need to learn balance by wobbling and occasionally falling, adults learn self-trust by navigating uncertainty, mistakes, and discomfort on their own terms. When you remove that process, you don't protect them. You weaken their relationship with their inner authority. Allowing someone to face their challenges is a way of saying, I trust you to figure this out, which is far more empowering than saying, I'll handle this for you. Energetically, everyone is responsible for the field created by their thoughts, choices, and unresolved patterns. When you repeatedly intervene in someone else's process, you don't erase their lesson. You absorb part of its weight into your own field. This creates imbalance because energy that doesn't belong to you begins to occupy your emotional and mental space. That's why chronic rescuers often feel exhausted, resentful, or stuck, even when they think they're doing everything right. Their energy is no longer clean or directed. It's dispersed across problems they were never meant to solve. Meanwhile, the person being rescued becomes energetically dependent, relying on external support instead of activating their own will, intuition, and responsibility. From an energetic perspective, letting someone fall is a correction. It returns responsibility to its rightful place and allows both people's energy to reorganize in a way that supports growth rather than dependency. When you stop fighting battles that aren't yours, something interesting happens. The other person is forced to engage with their own life more directly. And while this can look messy at first, it often activates clarity, courage, and self-trust that couldn't develop while someone else was carrying the weight. At the same time, your own energy becomes lighter and more focused. Decisions become clearer, boundaries strengthen naturally, and your capacity to grow your own life expands because your attention is no longer divided. This isn't selfishness, it's alignment. Learning to let people fall doesn't mean becoming cold, detached, or unavailable. It means shifting your focus from short-term emotional relief to long-term sustainable growth. Most rescuing behaviors are driven by the desire to reduce immediate discomfort, both theirs and ours. But relief is not the same thing as resolution. Short-term fixes feel productive because they quiet the situation quickly. They reduce tension, ease guilt, and create the illusion that something has been solved. But when you consistently intervene, you trade temporary calm for prolonged stagnation. The underlying patterns remain untouched, and the same issues resurface again and again, and often with more intensity. Letting someone face their own challenge may feel harder in the moment, but it supports real change. It allows the lesson to integrate and the insight to become embodied rather than theoretical. This is where sustainable growth happens, not through rescue, but through responsibility. Practicing this requires discernment. You can still offer presence, perspective, and compassion while refusing to take ownership of outcomes that don't belong to you. The question isn't whether stepping in will make things easier right now, but whether it will genuinely support the person's long-term evolution. At the end of the day, letting people fall is one of the hardest choices you can make, but it's also one of the most respectful. It acknowledges that others are capable of walking their own path, learning their own lessons, and becoming stronger through experience rather than protection. When you stop rescuing, you honor their evolution and reclaim your own energy at the same time. Before you move on from this video, I want you to pause for a moment, and I want you to think about someone in your life who's struggling right now and who you feel compelled to help. Consider what would actually happen if you stepped back slightly, if you resisted the urge to fix, or if you allowed them the space to meet their challenge on their own terms. This doesn't mean you don't care. It's about questioning whether your involvement is supporting short-term relief or long-term growth, both for them and for you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is trust that someone is capable of more than they currently believe. And sometimes growth begins not when we step in, but when we step aside. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, you need to watch my other video, The Unexpected Life Lessons from a Treasure Hunt, where I share how an ordinary experience turned into a powerful lesson about trust, timing, and allowing life to unfold without forcing outcomes. Until next time, take care, honor your boundaries, and always stay inspired.